If you've been on social media recently, you've probably seen alarming headlines about facial recognition systems at U.S. entry points, warnings telling people not to travel, and claims that every checkpoint now requires biometric scanning. You might be wondering if it's safe to travel internationally right now, whether your visa status could be affected, or if something fundamental has changed at U.S. borders that puts you at risk. I know these headlines can create real anxiety, especially when you're planning family visits, business trips, or international travel during the holidays. You might be asking yourself, is facial recognition new? Will it delay my entry? Could it somehow jeopardize my immigration status? Today, we're going to cut through the confusion, separate fact from fear, and explain exactly what's actually happening at U.S. checkpoints, what hasn't changed, and what you truly need to know before you travel. Let me start by addressing the core concern directly. Facial recognition technology at U.S. entry and exit points is not new. This technology has been gradually implemented at various airports and border crossings for several years as part of U.S. Customs and Border Protection's biometric entry-exit program. The system is designed to verify that the person presenting a passport or travel document is actually the legitimate holder of that document. It's a security measure intended to identify fraudulent documents, prevent identity theft, and streamline the entry process. What's important to understand is that this is not a sudden policy change that happened overnight in December 2025, nor is it a new travel restriction targeting specific groups of immigrants or visa holders. Here's what actually happens when you encounter facial recognition at a U.S. checkpoint. When you arrive at a U.S. port of entry, whether that's an airport, land border crossing, or seaport, a CBP officer may take your photograph using a camera at the inspection booth. This photograph is then compared against existing government photographs in your passport, visa application, or other official immigration documents. The system is verifying your identity by matching your live photo with the photo already on file. This process typically takes just a few seconds. If the system confirms your identity, the officer proceeds with the standard admission process. If there's any question or technical issue, the officer will handle your case manually, just as they would have done before facial recognition technology existed. Now let's address some of the most common misconceptions that have been circulating online. First, facial recognition is not a new requirement that suddenly makes travel dangerous or impossible. Second, undergoing a facial scan at entry does not change your visa status, trigger deportation proceedings, or place you under special scrutiny simply because your photo was taken. Third, you are not being tracked continuously throughout the United States because your photo was captured at entry. The photograph is used for identity verification purposes at that specific checkpoint moment. Fourth, facial recognition is not optional for some travelers and mandatory for others based on nationality, visa type, or immigration status. CBP applies biometric collection procedures consistently as part of their broader security protocols. Let me be very clear about what has not changed. The legal requirements for entering the United States remain exactly the same. You still need a valid passport from your country of citizenship. You still need a valid U.S. visa if your country is not part of the visa waiver program. If you're traveling under ESTA, you still need valid ESTA authorization. If you're a green card holder, you still need your valid permanent resident card. If you're a U.S. citizen, you still need your U.S. passport or other approved travel document. The questions CBP officers ask, the information they verify, and the legal standards for admission have not changed because of facial recognition technology. Officers are still assessing the same factors they always have: the purpose of your visit, your ties to your home country, your admissibility under U.S. immigration law, and whether you pose any security concerns. Some travelers have expressed concerns about privacy and how their biometric data is stored and used. According to CBP's official statements, photographs of U.S. citizens are deleted from the system within 12 hours, unless there's a specific law enforcement or security need to retain them. For foreign nationals, biometric data is stored in secure government databases consistent with existing immigration laws and privacy regulations. This data is used to verify identity during future travel and for immigration enforcement purposes when legally appropriate. It's important to understand that providing biometric information at ports of entry is not a violation of your rights. It's part of the legal authority that U.S. immigration officials have to screen and admit travelers into the country. Let's talk about what you should actually do if you're planning to travel internationally in the coming weeks or months. First, ensure all your travel documents are valid and up to date well before your departure date. Check your passport expiration date and remember that many countries require your passport to be valid for at least 6 months beyond your planned stay. If you're on a visa, verify that your visa hasn't expired and that it's appropriate for the purpose of your trip. If you're traveling on ESTA, check that your authorization is still valid and update your travel information if your plans have changed. Second, arrive at the airport with plenty of extra time before your flight. While facial recognition is generally quick, international travel processing can still involve lines, additional screening, and unexpected delays. Third, be prepared to answer standard questions from CBP officers honestly and clearly. These questions haven't changed and typically cover why you're traveling, where you'll be staying, how long you plan to stay, and what you do for work or study. If you're a visa holder or permanent resident who travels frequently, understand that facial recognition actually has the potential to make the entry process faster and more efficient once the technology is fully implemented at all ports of entry. The goal of the system is to reduce processing time by quickly confirming identity, rather than requiring officers to manually compare your appearance to document photos. However, you should still expect the normal entry process to take time, especially during busy travel periods like holidays or summer vacation season. Never assume that technology will eliminate the need for human review and questioning by immigration officers. Now I want to address a specific fear that many people have expressed online. Some social media posts have suggested that travelers are being denied entry or detained specifically because of facial recognition results, or that the technology is somehow being used to target people based on their country of origin, religion, or visa category. There is no evidence to support these claims. CBP officers make admission decisions based on established legal criteria, not on the results of a facial comparison alone. If you're denied entry to the United States, it would be because you don't meet the legal requirements for admission, such as having an invalid visa, appearing to intend to stay permanently when you only have a tourist visa, having a criminal record that makes you inadmissible, or providing inconsistent or false information to officers. Facial recognition is simply a tool to verify your identity, not a mechanism to create new grounds for inadmissibility. If you're someone who has had previous immigration violations, overstays, or other issues in the past, facial recognition technology doesn't change your situation. If you were previously found inadmissible or have unresolved immigration problems, those issues still exist, regardless of whether facial scanning is used. The technology doesn't create new problems, but it may make it more difficult to enter using fraudulent documents or someone else's identity. If you have any concerns about your admissibility to the United States due to past violations or criminal history, this is the time to consult with a licensed U.S. immigration attorney before you travel. An attorney can review your specific situation, determine whether you're admissible, and advise you on whether you need a waiver or other relief before attempting to enter. Let me also address concerns about what happens if the facial recognition system doesn't work properly or doesn't match your photo to your documents. Technical failures happen with any technology. If the system cannot verify your identity automatically, the CBP officer will simply proceed with manual verification, just as they did before this technology existed. They'll look at your documents, compare your appearance to your photos, ask you questions, and make a decision based on their training and the law. A technical failure with facial recognition does not mean you'll be automatically denied entry or subjected to additional scrutiny beyond what's necessary to verify your identity. For those of you who are wondering whether you should delay or cancel travel plans because of these headlines, let me offer some perspective. Unless you have specific legal reasons that make you inadmissible to the United States, such as visa violations, criminal issues, or immigration fraud, the presence of facial recognition technology at checkpoints is not a reason to avoid international travel. However, as I always recommend, anyone with complex immigration situations, pending applications, past violations, or legal uncertainties should consult with an immigration attorney before traveling internationally. This advice has nothing to do with facial recognition and everything to do with making sure you understand your legal status and rights before you place yourself in a situation where immigration officers will review your case. I want to take a moment to talk about where these alarming headlines come from and why it's so important to verify information before you panic or make major decisions. In today's digital world, information spreads instantly across social media platforms, but that speed doesn't guarantee accuracy. Sometimes content creators, even those with good intentions, create dramatic titles and thumbnails to attract attention. Other times, people misunderstand official announcements or technical language and share incomplete or distorted information. Occasionally, deliberate misinformation is spread to create fear or confusion for political purposes. This is why you must always verify immigration information through official sources. U.S. Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, the Department of Homeland Security, and the Department of State are the only truly authoritative sources for policies and procedures affecting U.S. immigration and travel. Let me remind you of something essential that applies to all immigration topics, not just facial recognition. U.S. immigration law does not change instantly based on headlines, social media posts, or even political speeches. Actual changes to immigration law require a formal process. New regulations must go through notice and comment periods. Executive orders must be legally sound and enforceable. Legislation must pass both chambers of Congress and be signed by the President. Court challenges can block or modify policies. This means that even when you hear about proposed changes, new policies, or controversial announcements, you need to understand where that proposal stands in the legal process before you assume it affects you today. As we approach the end of today's discussion, I want you to remember a few key takeaways. Facial recognition at U.S. entry points is an identity verification tool that has been expanding gradually over recent years. It is not a new travel ban. It is not targeting specific immigrant groups, and it has not changed the legal requirements for entering the United States. Your admissibility still depends on having valid documents, meeting the requirements of your visa category, and being truthful with immigration officers. If you're planning to travel internationally, make sure your documents are valid, plan for adequate time at airports, and be prepared for standard entry procedures. If you have any legal concerns about your immigration status, past violations, or admissibility, speak with a licensed immigration attorney before you travel. I also want to emphasize something that I discuss frequently on this channel. Permanent residency provides long-term stability and protection that temporary visa status simply cannot offer. If you're in the United States on a work visa, student visa, or other temporary status, pursuing a green card when you're eligible is one of the most important steps you can take to secure your future. Permanent residents have far greater rights, flexibility, and protection under U.S. law compared to non-immigrants. While even permanent residents must maintain their status and can lose it under certain circumstances, having a green card significantly reduces the uncertainty and vulnerability that comes with temporary visa categories. This video is meant to provide you with general educational information about facial recognition technology at U.S. checkpoints, and to help you separate fact from fear. Nothing in this video constitutes individual legal advice for your specific situation. Immigration law is complex, highly individualized, and constantly evolving. Your unique circumstances, background, visa category, travel history, and future plans all affect how immigration law applies to you. That's why working with a licensed U.S. immigration attorney is essential whenever you face important immigration decisions, applications, or concerns. If you found this video helpful in understanding what's really happening with facial recognition at U.S. entry points, I encourage you to share it with your friends, family members, colleagues, and anyone in your community who might be worried or confused by the headlines they've been seeing. Help us fight misinformation by spreading accurate, verified, responsible information. Please take a moment right now to subscribe to USA Immigration Today so you never miss important updates, policy explanations, and practical guidance on U.S. immigration topics. Turn on your notification bell so you're alerted whenever we post new content that might affect you or your loved ones. If this video answered your questions or gave you clarity, please give it a like. And I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let me know what immigration topics you'd like us to cover next, what questions you have, or what concerns are on your mind. Your engagement helps us create content that truly serves the immigrant community. Thank you for watching, and remember, stay informed, stay calm, and always verify information through official sources before making important decisions about your immigration journey.